The story of America begins long before the United States existed. European powers, seeking new opportunities, established colonies along the Atlantic coast. These colonies, each with their own unique character, were the seeds from which a nation would grow. Life in the colonies was challenging, yet hopeful. Colonists sought religious freedom, economic opportunity, and the chance to build a new life. As the colonies matured, a distinct identity began to form, separate from their European origins. By the mid-18th century, tensions grew between Great Britain and its American colonies. Issues of taxation without representation, coupled with growing desires for self-governance, ignited the flames of revolution. The Declaration of Independence in 1776 proclaimed the birth of a new nation founded on the ideals of liberty and equality. The American Revolution was a testament to the spirit of the newly formed nation. Outnumbered and outgunned, the Continental Army, led by General George Washington, fought tirelessly for independence. Winning battle by battle, the Americans managed to have a great impact. The British surrender at Yorktown in 1781 secured the hard-fought victory. The fledgling nation faced immense challenges in establishing a government. The Articles of Confederation, adopted in 1777, proved too weak to effectively govern the newly United States. Leaders recognized the need for a stronger central authority. The Constitutional Convention of 1787 laid the foundation for a new government. The Constitution, with its intricate system of checks and balances, aimed to prevent tyranny and ensure individual liberties. George Washington, the nation's hero, became the first president, setting precedents that would shape the nation's future. The 19th century was a period of immense growth and transformation for the United States, marked by significant changes in its social, economic and political landscapes. Westward expansion, fueled by the spirit of manifest destiny, led to both opportunity and conflict as settlers moved into new territories, often clashing with Native American tribes and each other. The Louisiana Purchase in 1803 doubled the size of the nation, opening vast territories for exploration and settlement and setting the stage for future growth. As the nation expanded, the issue of slavery became increasingly divisive, creating a rift between the northern and southern states. The southern economy relied heavily on enslaved labor for its agricultural output, while the North increasingly viewed the institution as morally reprehensible and pushed for its abolition. Political compromises, such as the Missouri Compromise of 1820, sought to maintain a fragile balance between slave and free states, but these measures were only temporary solutions. The issue of slavery reached a boiling point with the outbreak of the Civil War in 1861, following years of mounting tensions and failed negotiations. 11 southern states seceded from the Union, forming the Confederate States of America, in a bid to preserve their way of life and economic interests. The war that followed would be the bloodiest conflict in American history, testing the very fabric of the nation and ultimately leading to profound changes in its social and political structures. The Civil War was a period of immense sacrifice and upheaval. Brother fought against brother on battlefields across the nation, each side believing in the righteousness of their cause. The Union victory in 1865 preserved the nation, but the wounds of war ran deep. The period of Reconstruction that followed sought to rebuild the South and integrate formerly enslaved people into society. The 13th, 14th and 15th Amendments to the Constitution abolished slavery, granted citizenship to all persons born or naturalized in the United States, and protected voting rights, respectively. Reconstruction, however, faced fierce resistance in the South. White Southerners, resentful of federal intervention, enacted Jim Crow laws that enforced segregation and discrimination. The promise of equality for African Americans remained largely unfulfilled. Section 5. Industrial rise and progressive reform towards a modern America. The late 19th and early 20th centuries saw the United States transformed into an industrial powerhouse. The rise of railroads, factories and mass production led to unprecedented economic growth. Cities swelled as people flocked from rural areas in search of opportunity. This period of rapid industrialization also brought about significant social problems. Labor exploitation, poverty, and political corruption became rampant. The progressive movement emerged in response, advocating for social justice, government regulation, and reforms to address the ills of industrial society. Progressive reformers achieved significant victories, including antitrust laws to curb corporate monopolies, labor laws to protect workers, and women's suffrage. The nation grappled with the challenges of modernization, striving to create a more just and equitable society. Section 6. Global power and world wars, the United States on the world stage. The 20th century saw the United States emerge as a formidable global power, transforming from a relatively isolated nation into a key player on the world stage. The nation's growing industrial might and military strength led to increased involvement in international affairs, shaping the global landscape in significant ways. The Spanish-American War in 1898 marked the beginning of American expansion beyond its borders, signaling a new era of international influence. World War I, which erupted in Europe in 1914, initially saw the United States remain neutral, adhering to a policy of non-intervention. However, the sinking of the Lusitania and Germany's unrestricted submarine warfare policy drew the nation into the conflict in 1917, altering the course of history. American troops helped turn the tide of the war in favor of the Allies, demonstrating the nation's growing military capabilities and commitment to global stability. Following the war, the United States retreated into isolationism, seeking to avoid further entanglement in foreign conflicts, reflecting a desire for peace and stability at home. However, the rise of fascism in Europe and the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941 forced the nation to confront the threat of tyranny once again, leading to its decisive involvement in World War II. Section 7. Prosperity and unrest, post-war boom and social change. The aftermath of World War II ushered in an era of unprecedented prosperity for the United States. The nation emerged from the war as a global superpower, its economy booming. The GI Bill provided educational and housing opportunities for returning veterans, fueling a surge in home ownership and consumer spending. However, beneath the surface of this post-war boom lay deep social and racial tensions. The civil rights movement gained momentum, challenging Jim Crow segregation and demanding equal rights for African Americans. The struggle for civil rights was met with fierce resistance in the South. Peaceful protests were often met with violence, galvanizing public opinion and leading to landmark legislation such as the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Section 8. A nation divided again, the civil rights movement and social upheaval. The civil rights movement was just one facet of a broader period of social upheaval in the 1960s. The Vietnam War, which escalated throughout the decade, deeply divided the nation. Protests against the war grew increasingly widespread, challenging the government's policies and sparking a national debate about the morality of the conflict. The assassination of President John F. Kennedy in 1963 sent shockwaves through the nation and the world. Kennedy's successor, Lyndon B. Johnson, continued to push for social reforms, including the passage of the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act. The late 1960s were marked by growing social unrest as student movements, anti-war protests, and the fight for racial equality challenged traditional norms and demanded change. The nation grappled with its identity and its role in the world. Section 9. The Modern Age, from the Cold War to the 21st century. The latter half of the 20th century was dominated by the Cold War, a geopolitical struggle between the United States and the Soviet Union. This period saw intense rivalry and competition on multiple fronts. The two superpowers engaged in a nuclear arms race, proxy wars, and ideological battles that shaped the global landscape. The world watched as these titans clashed, influencing nations far and wide. The collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 marked the end of the Cold War and the triumph of democracy and capitalism. This pivotal moment reshaped the political dynamics of the world. However, the world remained a dangerous place, with new threats emerging from terrorism, regional conflicts, and the rise of new global powers. The post-Cold War era brought its own set of challenges. The 21st century has brought about rapid technological advancements, globalization, and ongoing social and political changes. These developments have interconnected the world in unprecedented ways. The United States continues to grapple with issues such as economic inequality, climate change, and its role in a rapidly changing world. These challenges require innovative solutions and collective action. The story of America, ever evolving, continues to be written. Each chapter reflects the resilience and adaptability of its people, shaping the nation's future.